Title: What happened inside this church will shock you. On the afternoon of February 14, 1997, a church custodian named Thomas Avery unlocked the front doors of St. Helena's Parish, a small Catholic church located in the outskirts of St. Clair County, Missouri. Thomas had worked at St. Helena's for over 20 years. He knew every wooden pew, every window pane, every crack in the stone floor. But when he stepped inside that morning, he knew immediately something was wrong. The church was silent. Not just quiet, wrongly silent. The air felt heavy, and there was a faint odor. Not rot, not smoke. Something else. Something like copper. Thomas went down the center aisle, calling out for the priest, Father Daniel Breyer. The father had hosted the Ash Wednesday evening service the night before, and as far as anyone knew, he was still in the rectory. But Father Daniel didn't answer, and that smell, the copper smell, was getting stronger. Thomas followed it. It led him past the rows of candles, past the confessional booth, and to the heavy side door that led into the old storage choir room. A room that hadn't been used in years. The smell was overwhelming now. Thomas reached out, slowly, and pulled the door open. What he saw inside has been described in police reports as the most disturbing and unnatural crime scene in the region's recorded history. The choir room was covered in symbols. Not painted, not drawn, scratched violently into the wooden walls. Over and over and over again. Deep grooves. Splintered wood. Some carved so aggressively that pieces of the wall had broken off onto the floor. There was one symbol repeated more than any other. A circle, with an X through it, surrounded by uneven, broken lines. No one in the investigation could identify it. Not religious scholars. Not occult historians. Not anthropologists. To this day, that symbol is officially classified as unknown. And there, in the center of the room, on his knees, was Father Daniel. His eyes were open. His hands were clasped together. He was kneeling as if in prayer, but his head was bent straight backwards, broken at an angle no human could survive. There were no signs of struggle, no defensive wounds, no blood anywhere on him. It looked like he had simply knelt down, and someone, or something, had folded him backwards like a sheet of paper. When authorities arrived, they sealed off the building. They questioned everyone who had attended the service the night before. Dozens of witnesses reported the same thing. Father Daniel seemed off. Not upset. Not sick. Just watched. One woman described it as like he was listening to someone else. Someone none of yous could hear. Another said she saw him standing alone in the darkened choir room hours after the service ended. His back was to her. He wasn't moving. She called his name. He didn't respond. She told investigators. It was like he wasn't inside his body anymore. Forensics estimated Father Daniel died between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. But here's where the story takes a turn from tragic to unexplainable. Because during that exact window, in the house directly across the field from the church, a 7-year-old boy woke up screaming. The boy told his mother, "He's standing in the church window. The man with the black face. He's looking at me." The mother checked the window. There was nothing there. But the boy kept pointing. "He's smiling now. He knows I see him." Investigators assumed the symbols carved into the walls were part of a mental breakdown. That Father Daniel snapped. That the stress had built up for too long. But that theory dissolved quickly. Because the carvings were analyzed. And they were determined to be made from the inside of the wood. Meaning, the pressure applied to create the marks was stronger than the wood's structural resistance. Stronger than a human hand could produce. And there were no tools found in the room. Whatever carved those symbols did so without a blade. St. Helena's Parish was closed. Ownership was transferred. Records were sealed. But in October of 2021, a paranormal researcher named Angela Ruiz gained access to the abandoned property for a documentary she was filming. She entered the choir room. She filmed for exactly 2 minutes and 17 seconds. At 2:18, her camera shut off. Not battery failure. Not mechanical failure. Electrical drain. Every device she brought with her, including her backup power packs, died instantly. She ran out of the building. She refused to go back inside. The footage she captured before the equipment died was uploaded online. In the last few seconds of the recording, you can hear something. Not a voice. A breathing. Slow. Methodical. What? And it is coming from inside the room, even though Angela is standing completely alone. St. Helena's is still abandoned. The choir room has never been documented a second time. The symbol carved into the walls, the circle with the X, has appeared 3 more times in the US since 2004. Once in a barn, once under a bridge, once inside an abandoned elementary school. Each time accompanied by one death. Always the same. Neck broken backwards. Body positioned as if kneeling in prayer. No suspects. No forced entry. No explanation. Just the symbol. So, the question is, did Father Daniel see something that night? Did he invite it? Or did he simply notice it, and noticing it was enough? Whatever happened inside St. Helena's Church did not end there. It may have started there, but it hasn't stopped. The woman who heard it speak. If you watch Chapter 1, you know about the death of Father Daniel, and the symbol carved into the choir room walls. But what most people don't know is that someone else saw the symbol months before the priest died. And she tried to warn him. This is her story. Her name was Marjorie Hemsley. A quiet, ordinary woman. Lived less than half a mile from St. Helena's Church. She attended every Sunday service. Sat in the same pew each week. Second row. Left side. She was the kind of person who believed if you didn't bother anyone, nothing would bother you. But something did. It started in late November, 3 months before Father Daniel's death. Marjorie had just finished evening prayers. She went to bed. She closed her eyes. And then, she heard it. A knock. Not on her door. Not on her window. On her wall. The wall that faced the church. 3 knocks. Evenly spaced. Knock, knock, knock. She got up. Checked the house. Nothing. She went back to sleep. That same night, she dreamt of the choir room. Only in her dream, there were no walls. Just darkness. And something breathing behind her. But, what? Slow. She didn't turn around. She couldn't. Because the sound wasn't just behind her. It was inside her. A voice, without words, but somehow saying, "I see you seeing me." She woke up screaming. Marjorie went to Father Daniel the next day. She told him about the dream. He asked her one question. "Did you speak back to it?" She said no. She swore she didn't. But Father Daniel didn't look relieved. He looked terrified. He told her, "Do not acknowledge it. Do not describe it. Do not think about it while you are alone. If you do, it will know where to look for you." Weeks passed. The knocks continued. Always in threes. Always on the wall facing the church. Marjorie stopped sleeping. Her hair began to fall out. She lost weight. But she stayed silent. Just as Father Daniel told her. Until one night, she broke. It was January 28th. A heavy snowstorm had rolled through the county. No one was on the streets. The world was quiet. And at 2:13 a.m., the knocking started again. But this time, it didn't stop. Not 3 knocks. Not a pattern. Just constant pounding. As if something was trying to break through the wall. Marjorie snapped. She shouted, "What do you want?" The pounding stopped. Dead silence. One knock. Right behind her. On the opposite wall. The wall inside her house. The next morning, she went back to St. Helena's. She told Father Daniel she had spoken to it. He didn't get angry. He didn't pray with her. He didn't comfort her. He just lowered his head and said, "Then it has learned your name." Marjorie never returned to the church again. Not for service. Not for confession. Not for anything. She packed her things and left town. She is still alive. Living under a different name. Her new location is sealed in the police report. But in a private interview in 2019, she said one thing. "It doesn't need the church anymore. It remembers where I am. It always remembers." And when she said that to the interviewer, you can hear it on the recording. A sound, very faint, coming from the wall. 3 knocks. Knock, knock, knock. The three who should have never seen it. Before St. Helena's Parish was abandoned. Before the doors were locked. Before police sealed the choir room. 3 people had already seen the presence connected to the symbol. They didn't know each other. They didn't speak to one another. They lived 3 different lives. But they all saw the same thing. And each of their encounters happened in the exact same 48-hour window. His name has never been publicly released. In reports, he is referred to only as Witness A, male, 7 years old. He lived in the farmhouse directly across the field from St. Helena's. From his bedroom window, the church was the only thing visible at night. On the night Father Daniel died, the boy woke up at 1:47 a.m. He told his mother, "The church is looking at me." Not someone inside the church itself. He pointed to the stained glass window facing their home. The window was completely dark, but the boy insisted he saw a face behind it. A face with no features, no eyes, no nose, no mouth, just a black shape pressed against the glass. And it was smiling. Child psychologists who reviewed the interview later described something unsettling. The boy never referred to the figure as he or it. He always called it the one who notices. Just, if I look at it too long, it starts to move. And if I move, it will too. He later told investigators, "It doesn't like being seen, but it likes when you know it's there." 24 years later, in 2021, paranormal researcher Angela Ruiz enters the abandoned church. She is not afraid. She is experienced. She has investigated over 30 locations described as haunted. But St. Helena's is the first place she has ever walked into where the air felt thick. She described it as, like the air was being used by something else. Her camera begins recording. At 1 minute and 12 seconds, she whispers, "Why is it quiet in here?" Not empty, quiet, like everything inside the building is holding its breath. At 2 minutes and 17 seconds, her equipment dies. Instant blackout. But before it shuts off entirely, there is audio. A sound. The same sound described by the boy. The same sound reported by Marjorie Hemsley. Breathing. Slow. Wet. Close. As if something is standing right next to her. But there is no one in the room. The circle with the X. First documented in the choir room walls. Later found in a barn in Michigan, 2004. Under a bridge in Kansas City, 2011. An abandoned elementary school in Tennessee, 2019. One person dead. Kneeling. Head bent backwards. No sign of forced entry. No struggle. No defensive wounds. Medical examiners listed cause of death as atlanto-occipital dislocation without blunt force trauma. In plain terms, the spine was separated from the skull, but nothing touched them. Here is the detail investigators didn't release to the public. The symbol always appears in places where someone has been watched for weeks before the death occurs. Not followed. Not hunted. But noticed. And every recorded witness reports the same thing. Just before the death, they start hearing breathing. But only when they are alone. Not outside. Not in crowds. Not in daylight. Only in moments of total stillness. This leads to the most disturbing possibility. The entity connected to the symbol does not chase people. It does not force itself into their lives. It waits. It waits to be seen. Even for a moment. Because once it is seen, it sees back. And once it sees you, it remembers. It remembers your voice, your shape, the sound of your breathing. And it does not need the church anymore. It does not need symbols. It does not need a doorway. Only your attention. So the real question is, if you've listened this far, if you've pictured the symbol, if you've imagined the breathing, did you look for it? Even for a second? Because if you did, then it may now know that you know. When it finally stepped forward, if you are easily frightened, you should stop here. Because everything up until now was warning. This is what happens when the warning comes too late. On October 12, 2021, 2 weeks after her equipment failed, Angela Ruiz returned to St. Helena's Parish. She didn't tell her documentary team. She didn't notify local authorities. She parked her car half a mile away and walked the rest. If you pause her final video frame by frame, you can see her hands shaking before she even opens the door. She was already being watched. Angela steps into the church. No wind, no echoes, just the sound of her breath in the microphone. But something is different this time. The air doesn't feel thick. It feels occupied, like someone else is breathing with her. In sync, right behind her. She whispers, "I know you're here." And something in the room stops breathing. She walks down the aisle. Her footsteps are the only sound. But as she approaches the side door, the one leading to the choir room, the microphone begins to distort. Static, low-frequency rumble. The sound of pressure building. Like the church itself is holding back a scream. Angela reaches for the door. And the breathing starts again. But this time, it is not behind her. It is on the other side of the door. Waiting. Breathing in. Waiting for her to breathe out. She opens the door. The choir room is empty. The walls are still carved with the symbol. The air is still heavy. But there is someone kneeling in the center of the room. Not a figure. Not a shadow. A person. Their back to her. Their head bowed. Kneeling exactly where Father Daniel was found. Angela takes one trembling step inside. "Hello?" The person stops breathing. And then slowly, the head bends backward. Not turning. Not twisting. Folding. Bone crack. Vertebrae separating. Until the face is looking straight up at the ceiling, while the body remains kneeling forward. Angela gasps. And the head snaps toward her without moving the rest of the body. The face is featureless. No eyes. No mouth. Just black. Pure black. Like skin stretched over a hole. Angela begins to shake, not from fear, but from recognition. Because the figure is not approaching. It is not reaching. It is not threatening. It is simply looking at her. Or rather, noticing her. And the symbol on the wall, the circle with the X, begins to expand. Not physically. In her vision, like it is filling her mind, overriding every thought, every memory, every sense of self, replacing everything with one message. "I see you seeing me." Angela collapses. The camera falls sideways. We never see the figure move. We only hear the breathing. Slow, measured, almost gentle. Then Angela whispers her last recorded words. "Don't look for it. It only needs you to look." The video ends. Her body was found 3 days later, in the exact same kneeling position as Father Daniel. Neck broken, hands clasped. No sign of struggle. The symbol was carved on the wall behind her. But here is the part the police did not release. It was carved from the inside.